What if China decides to invade Taiwan? What if they finally pull the trigger? In today's video, we'll explore 6 critical steps Beijing would take from buildup to neutralizing NATO responses to conducting a full military occupation strategy. And unlike speculation, each point is grounded in actual PLA activity since 2022. I am Mandatory Fun Day, and this is what a successful invasion of Taiwan from China would look like. Watch until the end because I'm discussing how NATO would react and what Chinese occupation of Taiwan would look like. First, chalk it up to routine exercises. Beijing masks invasion prep as civilian or military drills. In May 2025, the PLA's 73rd Group Army conducted amphibious landing exercises near Kinmen, mere nautical miles from Taiwan's held island, an unmistakable signal of real-world intent. Satellite imagery from January of 2025 also revealed fleets of Shiko-class landing barges being tested in Guangzhou. These modular D-Day piers bridge ships directly to beaches. Beijing's spending reflects intent. In 2023 alone, China spent an estimated $15.3 billion on Western Pacific drills, over 7% of its defense budget, conducting some 9,200 flights and 70,000 naval sorties around the first island chain. This isn't play, it's preparation. And the drills are only getting more complex. Over the last year, PLA exercises have moved from single-domain training to fully integrated multi-domain operations. Joint Coast Guard, Navy, live fires, J-20 stealth fighters, Type 052 Delta destroyers, DF-series missiles, and carrier groups have been spotted crossing the Strait's median line. This is clear evidence of a PLA gearing up to synchronize its forces the moment a conflict begins. The key takeaway here is that in recent history, these routine drills are part of a broader canvas of preparation, dual-use infrastructure, amphibious forces, carrier power, missiles, all wrapped in plausible deniability. China would then have to deter NATO even before firing a shot. A June 2025 Financial Times report says the Pentagon is pushing allies like Japan and Australia to clarify their roles if conflict erupts in the Taiwan Strait, revealing hesitation in Western capitals. Beijing would likely leverage its 3 warfare strategy: disinformation, legal justification, and psychological pressure to shape public opinion in the West, sowing doubt and fear while deterring alliance unity. In April 2025, PLA drills encircled Taiwan's northern, southern, and eastern waters, combined with aggressive rhetoric aimed at their president, framing him as an instigator. These moves aren't just military, they're meant to influence public perception in Taipei, Washington, London, Tokyo, and Canberra all at once. China further augments its deterrent posture via gray zone lawfare, asserting dubious legal claims to the Taiwan Strait, disrupting communications, and leveraging economic interdependency. Plus, cyber operations aimed at leaking embarrassing data or disrupting Western political systems are baked into its strategy. This is all tailored to create strategic pause, forcing the West into second-guessing intervention before any kinetic steps happen. The video is not over, but I want to tell you about the mandatoryfunday.com. I've got all my merchandise there: shirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles. I've also got a link that you can click for regulation-compliant shirts. Members of the website get 20% off merchandise and access to exclusive content. Let's get back to the video. The next phase of an invasion of Taiwan would hit hard: a massive PLA missile and airstrike aimed at paralyzing Taiwan's response. We've already seen parts of this in 2022 to 2024's live fire drills. China tested DF-17 hypersonic missiles, J-20 stealth fighters, and carrier-based surprise strikes, practicing decapitation, attacks, and radar suppression. The goal is to destroy early warning systems, airfields, ports, and military HQs with an initial blitz, plus simultaneous cyber attacks to blind command and control, jam civilian networks, and spread panic. A March 2025 U.S. intelligence assessment flagged China as the top techno-military threat, highlighting its integration of AI-enabled cyber operations to generate fake news, mimic personas, and disrupt Western coordination in a Taiwan scenario. All of this supports the PLA's ability to launch surgical strikes and control the narrative. This shock and awe phase is less about holding ground, more about buying windows, disabling Taiwan, and delaying Allied response long enough for Phase 4. While China prepares its strike and the West positions to respond, Taiwan is quietly fortifying the battlefield under its feet. Gone are the days of waiting on big ships and fighter jets. Taipei knows it can't match China plane for plane, so it's building a military that can survive, strike back, and grind down invaders street by street. Taiwan calls this the Porcupine strategy. The goal isn't to defeat China in open combat, it's to make the cost of occupation unbearably high, and that begins with changing how it trains, equips, and organizes for war. In early 2024, Taiwan extended mandatory military service from 4 months to 1 year and revamped training to focus on urban combat, missile deployment, and asymmetric tactics. Soldiers now train with javelin, stingers, and endless precision weapons, tools specifically aimed at PLA armor and helicopters. Taiwan is also developing layered defenses: first layer, sea mines, anti-ship missiles, coastal artillery. forward. Second, mobile ground units and HIMARS-style launchers. Final layer is civilian and territorial defense units for urban resistance. These are all things that China would have to factor into an invasion. But the most crucial shift is psychological. Taiwan's public no longer assumes America will always show up. Instead, they're preparing to hold the line for at least 2 weeks, long enough for international support to mobilize. Taiwan's also investing in civil resilience. Mobile hospitals and blackout-resilient communication nodes, backup water, power, and fuel depots across the interior. Military-trained volunteer networks, over 3,000 civilians completed defense courses in the last year alone. The tech sector is getting involved too. Taiwan's AI companies are working with the Ministry of Defense to develop autonomous reconnaissance drones, cyber defense layers, and disinformation filters to protect against China's influence ops. Taiwan's elite universities have also incorporated civil defenses into their curriculums. Taiwan isn't just sharpening its quills, it's digging in for a long fight. If the PLA lands, they won't face a passive island, they'll face a nation trained, mobilized, and absolutely determined to survive. And in modern warfare, willpower matters as much as firepower. Once Taiwan is blinded, phase 4 begins. Simultaneous sea and air insertions, secure entry points. Landing barges line up ready to build floating causeways, transporting armor and logistics along Taiwan's western coast. Areas like Taichung and Tainan are prime targets. Meanwhile, airborne forces will land near other areas, targeting airports and major intersections to block reinforcements. Earlier drills, Joint Sword 2024 Alpha Bravo practiced just this: air-sea coordination, rapid seizing of strategic locations, and neutralizing response nodes. In June 2025, Taiwan and Japan reported tracking 2 PLA carrier groups operating simultaneously in the first and second island chains, a clear rehearsal of multi-vector approaches to island seizure. Speed is the weapon. By the time Taiwan and the West detect coordinated insertion waves, PLA will already have sealed off ports and airfields, limiting counterattack options. The next phase would be to cut off assistance. China locks the strait to seal its conquest. Reuters reported PLA carriers and submarines in live-fire drills off southwestern Taiwan, with Japan monitoring maneuvers near Okinawa. The objective: submarines, destroyers, anti-ship missiles, and long-range air patrols create a bubble blocking U.S., Japanese, and Australian forces. Meanwhile, cyber operations target undersea cables, port manifests, and logistics coordination, like the PLA did during Straight Thunder 2025 Alpha. Concurrently, large-scale external exercise reinforced the signal. In early July, Australia hosted Talisman Sabre, 40,000 troops from 19 nations, including Japan, India, and European allies, to practice countering precisely this kind of PLA blockade. Beijing would monitor closely, even threaten secondary fronts like South China Sea or Guam to further delay Western intervention. Control the sea lanes and control the clock. Without support, Taiwan's window of viable resistance shrinks to hours, not days. While China prepares its playbook, the United States and Japan haven't been sitting idle. In fact, joint military exercises, infrastructure upgrades, and force posture changes have all accelerated with one goal in mind: deterring or responding to a Taiwan invasion. In 2025, Japan and the U.S. conducted Keen Sword 2025, a massive joint exercise that simulated high-intensity island defense and long-range missile coordination. Over 36,000 troops participated, along with missile batteries, cyber units, and amphibious elements. What's the big picture, though? The U.S. and Japan are prepping for distributed defense. Instead of waiting for an invasion, they're moving assets closer, pre-staging logistics, and setting up archipelagic kill zones across the Ryukyu and Western Pacific. It's all about turning islands into unsinkable aircraft carriers and missile platforms. Meanwhile, the U.S. Marine Corps is rolling out its stand-in forces concept, small lethal units embedded inside contested zones before the war even begins. These units would use ship-killing missiles and loitering drones to punch PLA naval columns in the face. There's nothing Marines love more than punching people in the face. In 2025, the U.S. placed Tomahawk-capable destroyers in Sasebo and forward-deployed Army mid-range capability units to Guam and Palau. Japan's latest defense white paper even identifies China as the greatest strategic threat, marking a shift from decades of pacifist posture. The West isn't just planning for a response, they're preparing the region to fight from day one. While China's strategy is built on speed and disruption, U.S. and Japanese efforts are focused on endurance and precision disruption. Whoever masters time and logistics wins the strait. Last would come occupation for China, ruled not just by force, but by narrative manipulation and control. Beijing would install a local pliant government and extend mass surveillance, cameras, checkpoints, facial recognition to monitor population compliance. This mirrors tactics seen in Russia's annexation of Crimea: install proxies, issue legal orders, rewrite local governance while drowning out dissent. In Taiwan, expect rapid media restriction, forced resignations of pro-independence officials, and mass reunification messaging broadcast widely. China's post-2022 purge of senior PLA leadership focused on ensuring party loyalty. It's a warning. Occupation won't tolerate rogue elements. This won't feel like martial law. It'll look like new autonomy under CCP oversight, with a continuing mix of coercion and co-option masked by propaganda. So, that's it. Those are the steps. Prep under cover, neutralize NATO resolve, cripple defenses, land forces, sever supplies, occupy thoroughly, each backed by documented PLA strategy and real-world drills from the past 3 years. If this analysis gave you chills, or raised questions, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. How could NATO stop this? Which phase worries you the most? If you like these geopolitics videos and these what-if scenarios, go watch one of my other ones. And I will see you next time.